Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United. Just for a moment there, I thought we weren't going to go live, but here we are. Welcome along, welcome back to All for United. Here we are. We're here on a Tuesday night after the Champions League football that was. I don't think anything really happened. All I can see in the group chat is people bitching about Pochettino, so PSG must have gone through, right? Anyway, moving on from that, let's talk about today's biggest stories. Everyone, the point of the show, by the way, which Jonathan kicked off last week, was on a midweek to basically bring a panel of Reds together to talk about anything that they want to talk. It's sort of like a what you're talking about show. So today, me, Stu, Alex and Ahmed are going to be talking about things that we want to talk about, and we want you guys to get in the comments and in the live chat, especially on YouTube. So come and find All for United on YouTube and give your thoughts. Make sure you hit like on the video. Make sure you hit subscribe. And I am going to bring a topic to the plate first, boys. Are you ready for this? So, Lewandowski linked with United today, of course. Not only is a hat-trick not impressive enough, they've got to link him to United to be able to get people to read the stories. Of course, that's the reason why. So I'm not going to sit here and try and dissect whether the reports are true. Instead, what I want to talk about is whether there's a big mistake for United to learn here. We're being linked with Lewandowski. He's another older striker. In previous years, we tend to have gone for an older striker. Igalo, Cavani, now Ronaldo. Can we say, A, any of them have been a success? Should we be learning from that? And B, should we be learning from Ronaldo right now when it comes to going out for another world-class striker over the age of 30, 33, 34, 35? Stu, let me come to you first. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, interesting, really, isn't it? I like Lewandowski. He's a proven goal scorer. People will say, well, he's only done it in Germany, but he's done it regularly in Germany. He hasn't done it for 1 or 2 seasons. He's regularly top 40 goals a season. He is a phenomenon in front of goal because he's got all the characteristics that I like in a number 9. He's not particularly fast, but he knows exactly where to be at any given time, and that's a bit of a gift that you can't really learn. It's something you've got to try and teach yourself. You need a sixth sense when you're in the box. You need to anticipate movement, anticipate where the ball's going to be, anticipate how and when they're going to cross it, and where you need to be at any given time. And Lewandowski is by far a master of his craft. I love Cavani. Cavani offers you something very, very similar, but he just, for whatever reason, is either fit enough or just doesn't want to play. So should we go for him? No. I think it would be a bit of a mistake. I think we need a complete rebuild anyway. We need to start looking at maybe proven goal scorers, proven strikers, but maybe we don't just have to go for the so-called A-listers. Maybe we should start spreading on it a bit further. I mean, Diaz ran him quite close last year. Haaland's running close. We all know the issues surrounding with Haaland. I don't think that's an option for us. There are some good strikers in the Premier League, some unattractive strikers in the Premier League that probably could do quite well for Manchester United, depending on the types of players we recruit. So I think when we're looking for a striker, we've got to look further behind, first and foremost, to see what creativity we're going to buy, to see what kind of defensive stability we're going to buy, and see where he fits into the mode of which our new manager wants to play. So I think we can learn a lot from Cristiano, club legend that he is. He's well beyond his means at the moment. But he's still scored, I think, something like 13, 14 goals this season already. So it's not a bad return. But I think there's a big lesson to be learned yet. So no, I would look further afield.
From what Stu was saying there, Alex, there's no doubting an older, proven goal scorer, striker's quality like Lewandowski, like Ronaldo. But it's the issue with these strikers and getting them when we're getting them, their hunger, their ambition. Let's face what they're coming into. It's a totally different situation than picking up leagues in Germany. Would that be your biggest question mark over going for someone like a Lewandowski as a number 9 next season, maybe?
I don't know if it's so much hunger. I find with strikers reaching that sort of age, there's always then the risk that they just start picking up injuries here, there, everywhere. Niggling injuries. That seems to be the issue with Cavani. Either that or he just can't be arsed and just wants a holiday. Either seems a possibility at this point in time. But I think, I largely agree with what Stu said. At the end of the day, it's time United start planning for the future. And if that means signing a younger striker who maybe doesn't necessarily hit the ground running straight away, but is going to give us a grounding that in a few years' time they are going to be flying and they are going to possibly be one of the best in their position, then it's time, it's time we do that. And I think we have to, no matter who takes charge, I think we have to take advantage of the fact that Rangnick is going to have some sort of role and really use his experience and sort of his history of being able to find almost like hidden gems sort of in Europe and players that, wouldn't necessarily top anyone's lists, but can still, and, sometimes with that, you can get players for a bit cheaper as well, rather than going with, obviously the obvious one, like Stu said, would probably be Haaland, his age, I'm not even sure if Haaland's human at this point. I think he might be like half a machine, is it T-1000 Terminator or something like that? But with his agent, I wouldn't be touching him with a barge pole personally, because I think Pogba will go in the summer. And I think once Pogba goes, the club really need to just decide, no matter how good a player is, that it's time that we don't deal with Mino Raiola, because no matter how good a player might be, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, it's an interesting point on Haaland. A name that Vipal is thrown in there. Hey, mate, thank you for coming and watching. I'd like us to look at Darwin Núñez, Benfica. Is that right, Benfica? Look great in the Champions League, young, hungry, and works his socks off the ball. I think he's also well built, isn't he? I think I saw a stat about the amount of headers he scores as well. Isn't he pretty good in the air too? He's not just a poacher. I can't remember if I saw that about him or someone else. Also mentioned about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, if we were looking for someone in the Premier League, potentially there. But again, there's this fine balance, right? Obviously, with an older statesman and someone who's proven, you know what you're getting. But then is your team set up to get that out of that player? It doesn't mean that they can necessarily do that in every side. And I know you've mentioned about it, Alex, a little bit, but for me, like just watching that City game, and this is why I don't think Ronaldo would have changed that City result at all. My concern was actually the hunger of those players and the players that were on the pitch putting their all into it. I just believe that a lot of these United players, they're not there for a top four battle. They're not there to get dirty. They very much want to live a privileged life. And I think for players like Lewandowski and Ronaldo, I think the issue we've got with them is getting them to put in 100% week in, week out, and when things aren't going their way. I think that's the tricky part, when things aren't going their way. How can they get their head out in the mud and really get the motivation to go for it? I think that's what they're finding difficult. And Fred Woodward says, remember Sir Alex Ferguson's policy of only signing players under the 27, unless in exceptional circumstances. We need to go back to signing hungry players who will level up at United and not coasters. I just want to get into one more comment here from Chucky. Hey, mate, are you good? No. Stop buying names and shirt sellers. Buy the players that will fit the way the team will play. Ahmed, which brings me on to my next question. Should that be the most important factor when we go out to sign a striker next? Forget the name, forget the record, forget, so to speak, what they've done in different leagues. We need a striker that has the attributes to fit whatever manager is coming in and his system.
I agree. It has to be a striker for me that is hungry, that will, play for the team, his teammates, and more importantly for the fans, because I feel that whenever we see our forwards just languishing alone up front and they're not contributing to our defensive effort, they're not exactly doing the job that I'm sure a manager or even a coach will have set them out to do. Yes, your job at the end of the day, you're employed for, is to score goals and try and, let's say, add something to your team's efforts in the game. The difference could be your performance up front could win us a game. It could even be the difference between us getting a point or losing a match. But for me, if I'm looking at next season and the names that are being linked with United in terms of that particular position, I would rather you go with the more hungrier, younger options, the low risk options, in my opinion, because we've been going for these big names for far too long. And I agree with what Chucky says. It's getting pretty tiring getting these big stars in, trying to solve a problem in the short term, but longer term they won't be here forever. So it leaves us in the lurch a little. So yeah, I would want to go for someone like a Nunez. I think we missed the boat with Vlahovic going to Juventus. Could have been someone I think we would have gone for. I can't think of too many others that would like rock the apple cart, but I'm sure one or two other decent options are out there. If we look in the right places, along with Ranić's scouting ability, we might find the right one.
You'd hope so. You would hope that we've got people working behind the scenes at the club somewhere trying to hunt out targets. I mean, I live in hope. Let me just quickly have a look at some more of these comments here. Adam says, I don't like to praise Arsenal, but look at the sort of players that they've bought over the last 2 years. Players that are hungry. Apex says, as a player, you play football to have the ball at your feet. Many footballers have careers where they don't see much of it. That's us. And I was just having a look. I saw one more comment earlier. Bainesy. Sebastian Haller. Interesting names for out there. Also like the kid who, isn't he the guy who was linked with Newcastle? What's his name? The guy who was in League, who's in League One. He plays for Rennes, doesn't he? Or Reims?
I think Ekitike is his name. He plays for Reims.
Yeah, Reims, that's it. So I had a chat with Graham Bailey around the time, off camera, around the time that Newcastle were pushing to sign him in January. And he was like, I don't understand why Liverpool, United, all the other big clubs that are in for him, has got such a big following, and he's going to get snapped up this summer by somebody. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Just switching back to ever so slightly to the Ronaldo link into all this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reports and rumours going around of Ronaldo, whether he is injured. I mean, it's all hearsay. It's nor here nor there. I don't want to speculate too much. But also Cavani as well. He's reached a point. I mean, Cavani's pissing me off, man. Like, he is adored by the fans. He's got a perfect platform to go out there and play football till the end of his career and be cheered on and off the pitch by a huge crowd, and he's wasting it. I don't believe half of these injuries that are going on with him, to be honest. So is that something we can learn from these? I mean, Alex hit on it a little bit earlier on. It's not so much about these players being able to do it at United, it's about whether their body can continue to do it, and especially if we're going to rely on them week in, week out.
Yeah, I think the thing with Cavani is I think he wanted out in January. Everybody knows it. He's going to sign a pre-contract somewhere, go to Barcelona, or he end up back at home in Uruguay. So I think that's his biggest problem. He just wants out. He doesn't want the rigours of the Premier League football anymore. As for Ronaldo, I think the problem with Ronaldo at the moment is he still believes he can give, the type of performance that he did 10 years ago. And I suppose we all got suckered in to it a little bit when he was coasting at Juventus, but it's a different type of league. It's more of a sedate league. It's a very, very slow league. I'm not really sure Ronaldo is prepared for what the Premier League is like in 2022 as opposed to what it was when he was a lot younger in 2009 and through the 2000s when he was with us, when he was around 17. So I think from that point of view, we've got to look at a number of things. We've got to look at salary. We've got to look at the types of pressures that puts on players. I think Ronaldo's probably, by his presence alone, put a lot of pressures on certain players. Our players, and I'll go on to it when I discuss my topic, but we're just not set up to have these types of pressures, these modern day footballers. When Eric Cantona strode into United in 93, it was a completely different story. He went into a dressing room with winners, absolute winners, hungry fighters, week in and week out. We don't have that at all in our current squad, and that makes it a big, big problem. So I think there's a multitude of things. I think Ronaldo himself is probably privately thinking, I should have just gone to America, retired or done something. But he wanted one last hurrah and was so far away from competing for a trophy. I'm not so sure you'll see Ronaldo here in the summer. I think he'll move on.
Yeah, and Alex, if United are looking into an older striker, that doesn't necessarily mean, as you said, when it comes to a transfer fee, that they won't also be looking at a younger striker. So could it be with the fact that Cavani and Ronaldo going in the summer, it makes sense to bring in young and old, someone with a little bit more experience, someone a little bit younger to feed off of. Also, again, I don't want to sit here and have a conversation about him, to be quite honest, but Mason Greenwood, you probably feel like he 100% has no future in football, yet alone the club. So United, really, from a striker's point of view, we're in a bit of a mess.
Yeah, I think, that is part of it. I mean, we went into the game on Sunday. We knew that Ronaldo wasn't there. Cavani's already had his annual one match every 2 months, so Cavani was out of the question. So we went into that match and suddenly it was like, well, we don't have a striker. And like Sky were busy going, oh, well, they've got Rashford, who's a natural striker. Rashford's never been a natural striker, no matter what form he's in. He's always been better on the wing. He's not a natural striker. And, as soon as you take, Cavani's gone in the summer. Ronaldo will be gone in the summer. I'm almost certain of it. So, yeah, we're going to need, as much as we need, like I said, a young striker who can sort of take us forward sort of into the future, we really do need more than one. And it could be as simple as, somebody who we're able to get, maybe somebody a bit older, not necessarily Lewandowski, but, somebody a bit older who can just be sort of like a backup, a bit of experience there. Because going into a season with one striker is not, that's not plausible because, knowing our luck, the new young guy gets injured 2 weeks in and then we're back to square one. So, I think we're in a position, unfortunately, in the summer where we've got so many positions that really we need to add to. And we're not just talking about one player in each position. We're talking about potentially two strikers, two midfielders, potentially a centre-back, a full-back maybe, a goalkeeper maybe, but I don't think that's for this summer. I feel like that's a future conversation that's not really, that's probably a bit, you've got to prioritise. But
well, quickly on that, Alex, I'm not one of those people who claims to have sources, unlike this guy. Let's bring him in. He's got a source on every street corner in Manchester, this lad. Callum's on. But
I don't think I've ever claimed to have any sources.
I've been told to watch, what's his name? Oh, what's his name now? It's completely Sam Johnston to United this summer.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Yeah, I saw that. He probably, he'd suit as in terms of like a backup to whoever our goalkeeper is. But
that's the thing. We're so inflated.
United to be a first teamer, so he's not going to return to be backup, surely.
No, I think ultimately he will end up coming in. If you want me to be honest, I think looking at the mess we're in, I think Grant's going to probably retire in the summer. He's completed his coaching badges, so he'll be gone. So then Tom Heaton will step back. I think Dean Henderson's going to go in the summer. I think he'll kick off and want game time. I think he'll go, whether that's on loan or that's a transfer. He'll go. So United are going to need another keeper. So I think he'll come in as backup, but promised with cup games. I think we're probably going to see that. It's just so weird, though, isn't it, boys? We're in a weird situation where it's just who knows what to believe at the moment because there's no manager. We're being potentially linked with players. We're potentially scouting players and looking at ways to move forward. I don't know if you guys saw the article the other day. Up to 12 players could leave this summer, which sounds like a breath of fresh air to me. But it's also like I don't have faith in whoever's in the club to then bring in the right players with those 12 going. That's the issue I've got. So it's a bit of a tough one. Anyway, Callum, quickly, before we come on to these things, just yes or no's, boys, just really, really quickly to answer Adam's question. No chance of Martial coming back. Stu, yes or no? Martial?
Yeah, he'll come back. Martial will come back. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Ahmed?
It's close, but yeah, because I don't think he'll want to leave this summer if there's a new manager coming.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Callum?
He'll come back and try, and they'll sell him.
Yeah, but would he come back and play?
No.
So you think he'll come back and obviously go? He'll be moved on in the summer.
He's done. He's gone.
Alex?
I think he comes back because I think it will be another situation of us struggling to sell him. But I don't necessarily think he's got a future at the club. I think that ship's sailed.
I agree with that take. I think the only way he ends up back in the side, I think, is if we already screw up another transfer window, which is a fucking great possibility that'll happen.
I'd have played him. I'd have played him alongside Ronaldo. He's a perfect foil for him.
Do you know what, Stu? Do you remember when we did the on the record Rangnick show? We both sat there and went, Rangnick's perfect striker is Anthony Martial.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Tony Squire said it before. We need to find that balance of youth and experience. Bring some of the academy lads up that are close to first team football, some more experienced players. Issue we've got, Tony, is I personally feel like our best young talents are actually not. They're at the level below reserve, playing their best football at the moment. Like the Youth Cup team that have just got into the final with the likes of O'Neill, Garnacho, Gerard, like all these lads. I think they're potentially, especially when it comes to the next bunch, if we're ignoring the fact that Alanga, and those guys are already in the first team squad. I don't necessarily think that I don't think we're there yet. Hugo, maybe, I don't know, but is he really ready to make that jump? I'm not 100% sure at this point.
Physicality is my worry.
Hugo's not ready yet. You're right. Fernandez is ready. The fullback, very, very good player. Very, very good player. Medjbury, good squad player for us. You see, for me, I think Alanga's a decent player, but he's a better squad player for us at the minute. He's getting there. And for me, I'd play him through the middle. If you're going to play Alanga, you've got to play him through the middle rather than out.
The reason why he looks so good at the moment, Stu, is because of his hunger. Literally, that's the thing that stands him out more than anyone else on that pitch. It's that rawness, that hunger. He's got something to play for. The rest of the players look like they weren't playing for anything. That's what I saw yesterday. On Sunday. The big difference between the two teams was City were playing to win the league. And those players were frigging hungry to win that game to get a step closer to doing it.
It's
true.
true.
Like they couldn't give a shit. They weren't playing for anything.
I've been saying it for months. I've been saying it for absolutely months. And I remember.
You thought that was Callum?
No,
I said that the other month, a few weeks ago on a show, and everyone had a go at me for it, saying the players do care.
No, I've had it as well. I've had it.
Oh, you said it too. I got shouted at and said, "Oh, everything. No, he's lying." I said it after the Watford game. I said these players, the reason why they didn't win that game is because they just didn't care. Simple as that. And everyone went, I don't think it's about a lack of care, but it was just a lack of quality. No, they just didn't give a shit. It was simple as that.
Alex and Ahmed, do any of you lads have a violin for these two quickly? They're made the point first.
I completely agree.
I brought it up when Ollie was manager.
Yeah.
If you remember, Cal, I turned around and said, it's all about fucking player
it's
application.
Like watching Jeff mind.
No,
Moyes, I said it when Moyes was manager.
Yeah, no. I said it, and I brought up David De Gea as well, and the issues that we're having currently with the squad. But I got absolutely rattled by a load of. I just got fucking pounded by it's coaching. Fucking so narrow-minded, really, when it comes to being in the game. You've really got to understand football to understand it isn't always about coaching. It is about your mentality as an individual. It's about your mentality of actually wanting to deliver.
Well, still on that, you want to talk about a player in a second, so let's move on to that. Let me just do a couple more comments, and I'm just going to ask Callum for the final statement because he hasn't had a chance yet to say about the Lewandowski Ronaldo thing. Tyrone Williams says, Manchester United can't look at Pochettino after tonight's result. The guy never comes out on top when it matters. To be honest, Tyrone, yes, there's some truth element in terms of what he did at Tottenham to that, but I personally, and I've said this to the boys before, I'm not taking any notice of what happens with him at PSG because he should never have taken that job in the first place, and the club's just a mess from the start to the finish, and it's run by the players anyway. So I don't know what he's meant to do there. Fabian says, so what are you saying is that we should let a winner go because the rest can't handle the pressure of winning? Ronaldo was Serie A top scorer last season, for God's sake, won more last year than United in 5 years. Yeah, do you know what, Fabian? I cannot disagree with the fact that he has got quality, 110%. But the issue is he can't take a whole team in the Premier League to top 4 or a championship himself. He just can't. And he's playing with players who aren't as ambitious as him. Now, I'm not saying he is the issue, but the issue is then when he's not the issue, he becomes frustrated. What then that causes is a whole sense of unrest. And ultimately, player power comes to the forefront. You get riffs. You get him taking it into his own stride. It just then becomes an absolute mess. So I completely agree, Fabian. Like 100%. Ronaldo probably is sitting there frustrated because the lads around him have not got that same passion and drive as him because he is a winner. I completely get that 100%. But the issue is then how you deal with that. And from what we're seeing from the outside in, and again, it's whether you believe stuff or not believe stuff, just sometimes even seeing him around the pitch, flapping his hands in the way that he walks and trudges, etc. I don't think he's dealing with it in the right way.
Can I just say though, Ben, it's
yeah,
a good, no offense, Fabian, but it's a good example of completely missing the point and completely not understanding the concept of football. Just because you do it in Serie A.
I mean, that was a bit harsh.
I'm sorry. No, it is, but I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with it at the minute because you can do it in Serie A, you can do it in Real Madrid. You've got to look at first and foremost the teammates around you, the types of teammates that you're playing with. You've got to look at the league that you're playing against. You've got to look at the teams that you're playing against. You've got to look at a multitude of things. It's dead. Anyone can say, "Well, he's done it in fucking Serie A." Big deal, big deal. He did it at United, and then he went off to Real Madrid. Did it at Real Madrid. He was getting older and older and older, and that's where we are. And this is where I got frustrated with fans because they don't look at the bigger picture. They just look at the through their own blinkers about, well, he scored 50 goals for Juventus. That was fucking 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It doesn't matter. We're talking about today. We're talking about the type of player that he's getting onto that pitch with. He's not getting on the pitch with a Roy Keane anymore, a Wayne Rooney, a Carlos Tevez, a Michael Carrick, a Ryan Giggs. He's not on that pitch with a Rio Ferdinand, a Ruud van Nistelrooy, a Patrice Evra, a Nemanja Vidic, a Van der Sar. He's not on the pitch with that type of player. We've got to understand this as people and as fans. Okay. But we really have. And unfortunately, we're being told one thing by the club, and fans just don't look at it from a realistic point of view. And that's why I'm vexed at this point in time. Get me off.
I don't think she likes being front and center.
I love you, Stu. It's a good point well made. 100%. Well, good points well made. I completely agree. Do you know what, though? Also, though, there is a truth element to Fabian's mention there in terms of ambition within a singular player, but then that ambition has to be filtered down to the squad in the right way. And this is why, it's just such an awkward conversation, because then you get into the conversation of, should Maguire be captain? And then you get into the conversation of, do we have enough leaders? And it's just an absolute minefield. I think what's important is you've got a good balance and mixture of squad personalities, quality, all mixed in together, which is why Sir Alex brought in players like Antonio Valencia, brought in players like Nemanja Vidic, Evra. Like at the time when he brought in Michael Owen, he did it for a reason. Like he needed a void filled, and he found the right players to do it. United, there has been no structural purpose behind anything we've done recently. Anyway, Callum, quickly, let me come to you, because everything we've just said, you could probably go on a 10-minute rant about. So I just want to put it back slightly. We were talking basically a little bit around the links to do with Lewandowski and United potentially looking again at an older statesman. And basically, would it be a mistake? Should we be learning lessons from Cavani and Ronaldo at this point? How have you seen them at United, and what do you make of the rumour?
I mean, the rumour's rubbish. I can't see it being true at all. I think it'll just be a case of his agent using United to get a better contract, whether at Munich or elsewhere, but I don't think he'll come to United. He certainly won't come to United if we're in the Europa Conference League, which I can guarantee you we will be.
It's the only trophy he's missing from his collection, to be fair.
No, I don't think he's coming. It would be a very Glazer-esque thing to do, though, because he knows that it'd sell shirts. He'd probably play half the games. I mean, I think comparing Lewandowski to Cavani and Ronaldo is a little different, because he is slightly younger and he's not as injury prone as Cavani. And I don't see it in Lewandowski where he would just go, I'm not playing anymore. I don't want to, like Cavani does. Cavani seems to have got this cult hero status at Man United, when at the moment he just doesn't deserve it. He just can't be bothered playing for the club. So no, I don't think Lewandowski's coming. I don't think there's any truth to the rumour. I'd like to think with the new people we've got in place, like John Murtough and Darren Fletcher, and all these that we're allegedly looking to bring in the summer, hopefully they'll help us learn from any previous mistakes, and we won't just look at bringing in a 33-year-old striker, and we'll look at bringing in a younger player and sort of helping the structure of the club and bringing in the right players to help us push for maybe 6th place next season.
Oh,
I mean,
it's just so true. It's funny because if you don't laugh, you cry.
I mean, let's be honest. If you don't laugh, you'll cry.
We literally said that at the same time, Alex. I literally feel like going back to primary school and doing jinx, padlock, touchwood on something, but let's not bring that into it, shall we?
Yeah.
Sorry, Stu, that was something that we used to, that like for people who were born in the 90s or noughties would say, mate. Sorry,
Yeah,
Stu.
we'll never clue. We'll never clue.
Just thought I'd catch you up on that, mate.
70s child, man. 70s child.
Let me just quickly put up a comment because it's going to be the perfect segue into your conversation and what you want to talk about around Sam Johnston. Vipol, who's been well active in the chat. Thank you, mate. They said, if Sam Johnston come in, hope it's in place of David De Gea. Now, Stu, you want to bring a topic to the table around De Gea. Take the floor away, my friend.
Well, again, I mean, Alex, I locked horns on this before. And Alex, by the way, is a goalkeeper. So he's got a better understanding of the position than I do. And I've never been a goalkeeper, and I don't pretend to be a goalkeeper. But this is, again, something I mentioned months ago. And I think Ahmed and Callum were both on the show. And I speak about the stick that Maguire was getting at the time. Now, a lot of it's been correct. Some of it's been unfounded and very, very difficult because he's been hung out to dry on many occasions by defenders in and around him. I've mentioned on a few occasions an issue we got with Varane, and I've also mentioned on a few occasions issues with that at fullback. But all this comes down to travelling distance, and I speak about this a lot. As a former centre half, it's important that your travelling distance is cut between either yourself and the 18-yard box, either yourself and your goalkeeper. And if you look at the Burnley goal is a great example of De Gea staying within his 6-yard area and not actually coming and claiming the area. For the rights and wrongs of Maguire's pretty weak attempt at grabbing the ball off Weghorst, although he was dragged out of position because Scott McTominay was dawdling around. Once Weghorst had kind of rumbled the ball through into what's his name? J-Rod, K-Rod, whoever it is, Rodriguez, wasn't it? The travelling distance that Rodriguez had from the actual time he picked up the ball to bearing down on De Gea was huge. If De Gea had come out maybe 9 yards, and Alex should be able to tell me a bit better about narrowing your angles and things of this nature, he would have been able to smother Rodriguez, but also given Luke Shaw the opportunity, instead of running like a freight train and trying to tackle Rodriguez, to go behind De Gea and potentially do a goal line clearance. So the big issue I've got is travelling distance. This is where our centre halves, and I'm not going to just say Maguire as a whole, but this is where our centre halves are being called out of position all the time because there's no communication. A good example was on Sunday. Now, everyone's having a pop at Maguire and Lindelof saying it was their mistake, that the goal was conceded. I don't really buy that. If two players can't stop Silva crossing the ball, I mean, he's a little fucking jerk, for example. Should have smashed him off the pitch. But if two players can't stop a cross, you've then, De Gea's got to be then talking. He's got to be looking to where the play is. He's also then going to be looking in and around his box to see what's happening. And he should be communicating to Lindelof, should be communicating to Maguire. He should be screaming at McTominay, whoever let the runner come through. I mean, Alex, correct me again if I'm wrong. You're a goalkeeper, so correct me if I'm wrong. But this is my experience of a goalkeeper, of a top-class goalkeeper, commanding his whole area, okay, from the side to the middle. He knows exactly where he is. He knows exactly where the runners are. He knows exactly where the striker is. He should know where his centre-halves are. Our centre-halves were so far apart because we were caught out by weak defending between, I think it was Alanga and Wan-Bissaka. And this is poor, But De Gea, I never once saw De Gea pointing and orchestrating. Not once. He's too quiet. He's almost timid, or he's intimidated by a striker. And those I know he's a wonderful shot stopper. I'm going to get absolute pelters with my with my thoughts on this, but he's a brilliant shot stopper. But it's not what we need right now. We don't need a shot stopper. We need a commander. We need somebody who's going to come out, punch Maguire in the face to get to that football. Nobody does it. Alisson does it. All the top goalkeepers do it. Ramsdale does it. All of them do it.
Can I just say, Stu, because he wears the armband, people see Maguire as the last line of defence. Is not the keeper is, and that is part of my issue as well with the controlling of the back four. Is I'm with you on his commanding nature, but the thing that irks me the most with De Gea is the majority of his saves are off a poor freaking goal kick. 90% of the time. Anyway, Alex, let me come over to you because no one can absolutely doubt his shot stopping ability. And at times this season, let's face it, with his shot stopping ability, I'd love to see the statistics anyway from the amount of time he's given the ball away that's converted into a chance, but that's for another day. No one can doubt he's probably in the shout for a player of the season. Yet there are people in the fan base like Stu and like I've just questioned him on some bits there where we take issue with the way that De Gea as a modern day keeper plays a modern day game. Alex, you've played in goal. Stu was just hitting on there. Let me come over to you first of all. Your thoughts on Stu's opinions and maybe you want to answer some of his questions.
Yeah, I think first of all, if you take away back to the Burnley goal that Stu mentioned, in that situation as a goalkeeper, you're sort of in a situation where you've got a decision to make, where it's that instant decision, and it's a difficult one to make, but the decision is basically: do you engage or do you wait and react? And the reality is, in some circumstances, in some circumstances, you go back to earlier this season, the Southampton game, 1-1. At the start, near the start of the season, what was it? Second, third game of the season. I think it was Armstrong, whatever his name was in on goal. De Gea made the perfect decision, waited, didn't engage. If he'd engaged, he makes the goal wider. But by staying deep, he basically says to the guy, no, you beat me. And as it is, he makes a save. Folk point out that it's straight at him, but he makes that save because he stays deep. But obviously in other circumstances, the right thing to do is to engage. That is one of the weakest parts of his game, is engaging. He prefers to stay deep. Now, I can understand why he prefers to stay deep, because at the end of the day, his livelihood is his reactions. You're going to struggle to find a better goalkeeper in terms of reactions. So I can understand why he wants to back that. But in some circumstances, he needs to engage. And in those circumstances, I sometimes feel like it's almost like if we could mix a bit of Henderson, a bit of De Gea together, then we'd almost have the perfect goalkeeper. Because in reality, going forward, I actually don't know if either of them are good enough, if I'm honest. I think De Gea was, he was good enough. He was good enough at a certain time. Going forward is, we can definitely improve. Is Henderson the man to replace him? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Henderson...
One way to find that out, though.
I'm not sure if Henderson improves. Part of our issue at the moment is that the players are weak-minded and are basically children who cry about every little thing. And the fact is, it seems like he's crying to the media every 2 weeks. And I think he cried to the media if his hotel pillows weren't fluffed up properly. So I'm not sure if that helps in that scenario.
Alex, can I bring in a comment quickly? Because you might want to reflect on this. And before we move on as well, Tyrone says, the modern day goalkeeper has to be a sweeper and join in more with the build-up play. If United had the right coaching setup, De Gea's ability to distribute the ball could have been improved. I agree, Tyrone. But this is why the fallout happened with Louis van Gaal's goalkeeping coaches, if I believe correct, is because that is exactly what they wanted to teach him. And that's why we saw Victor Valdez in goal for a very long period of time. It was Valdez at the time, wasn't it? Is it? Yeah, Valdez.
We had Romero for a few games.
It was Valdez, wasn't it, in the first season under Van Gaal that played a lot? We
had Romero for a few games when De Gea's... when there was question marks over his future because there was the whole Real Madrid.
He's talking about 2014-15, not the season after.
Oh, so the first, and then it happened, because then
And then De Gea got injured in the game, and Valdez came in for a game or two.
Oh, okay,
In the
right.
main, De Gea kept his spot. I think
What's his name? The guy, is it Hoke? Hike? I can't remember. Frank Hoke.
Yeah, France
he's the one who's really
Yeah,
outspoken about the fact that he
that's
couldn't teach De Gea.
I think that's a difficult one. He said, a lot of people have been jumping on the comment that he made about he's uncoachable or whatever, and folk are going, well, he's clearly uncoachable. But in another comparison, Eric Steele, who was obviously Fergie's, trusted goalkeeper coach, turned around and basically said De Gea was more than happy to learn everything and was like and I think he referred to him as being like a sponge who sort of soaked everything in. So it all comes back to, I guess, it's the same with anything when you're interacting with a coach. And the thing is, I don't think it's helped De Gea's development that he's on his 8th goalkeeping coach in like 10 years. Like if you're wanting a sort of set way of doing it, you're gonna have every coach is gonna have a certain thing that they're going to focus on. I think it's well spoken about that during his time under Mourinho, there wasn't really any work done on his passing, and I don't think that's helped. Because if you think back, and it feels like ages ago now, but if you think back to his early days under Fergie, he actually did have a decent pass on him. It wasn't Ederson level of passing, but he had like a decent pass where he could actually ping it out to a winger. Now, every time he gets the ball, you're thinking, "Oh God, here we go." But
I don't know. My hang up with De Gea has always been his kicking. Always. Like, I remember when
never used to be. If you listen to Eric Steele, he said one of the reasons him and Fergie wanted him was because of his passing.
Well, it's interesting though. It's interesting.
He used to be a good passer of the ball. I don't know why it's gone.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's what you hit on, because I remember like watching. Well, nearly every game, but then especially when I was sat in Old Trafford, he'd get the ball and everyone would just be looking and waiting for the ball to be given back to the opposition whenever he had it at his feet. And I don't know why he's got that reputation for himself. Maybe you're right. Maybe so much work was put in at the very start, because we remember the clangers he had made from corners and his strength and conditioning wasn't great. Alex, maybe you're right. Maybe the wrong focus has been put in at him on the wrong time to not sort of modernize his game. And that's the issue we've got now. And sorry, Alex, you spoke to some great things there. I'm sorry for butting in it towards the end, but I just wanted to quickly come over to Ahmed, because I came over to you, Ahmed, about the Ronaldo Lewandowski thing, about finding a striker that fitted the system. Surely Rangnick should be picking the goalkeeper that fits his system. So here's where my confusion is. He wants to keep the ball. He wants to play with a higher line. Rangnick does play with quite a high line. So ultimately, where does De Gea fit in with that? Because it sort of feels like that's not his best attributes from what Alex and Stu have both said.
It's a very complex situation. The goalkeeper, because he's been the mainstay of our goalposts for a long time now, we've sort of become accustomed to him just, getting in the team and hoping he pulls off some miraculous saves. But then forgetting, obviously, his kicking isn't as good as it was. And I echo what Alex said about him early in his career when it came to his distribution, and his kicking ability was pretty good when Eric Steele was there. It's just sort of faded away because, as we mentioned earlier, Frank Hook didn't tried to manage him in a different way, develop him a different way. It didn't work. There were some arguments in the back room. May have had a role in potentially him moving to Real Madrid at the time, which would have been, I think, who knows what that could have led to today if De Gea had moved on to Real. But
interesting.
With that, and with now and how we could be looking to try and replace him, if we were to change keeper, I think that really again goes back to looking at whoever comes in to take over the job. And Rangnick will, I'm sure, look at a goalkeeper that can use his feet, can actually play the role of a sweeper per se, because nowadays goalkeepers are de facto sweepers. They have to come out of their box to contribute to the build-up play or retention of possession in and around their own penalty area, standing in between two centre halves. And I see this a lot in teams I watch play football nowadays in any league. Every time the ball goes back towards the edge of the area, goalkeeper's already coming out the box to receive it, and his centre halves are spreading out to make themselves available. So whenever I see David do that, I notice anytime he's there, I don't feel as confident as any other keeper. So ultimately, if I'm Ralph, briefly, I'll say someone who's an able-footed goalkeeper, can use both feet, has decent enough distribution, coupled with a good ability with shot stopping, and also is agile and quick thinking. Hopefully, there is someone out there that can do that. I can't think of names off the top of my head because that's such a deep search, but I'm sure he'll have one or two in mind. But if anything, David will try at least with the new coaching staff, whoever comes in, to work a way of developing that skill. And hopefully, if he does get that chance, who knows what may happen. If not, it's got to be Henderson for me because he looks like the kind of guy who would do anything for this team.
I think I don't think I agree in terms of Henderson doing anything for the team when there's probably a very good chance he's been one of the leaks this season. Well, it definitely looks that way. But in terms of sweeping, I still feel like United, if we were run properly as a club, we'd have been trying to get Donnarumma in the summer. And we'd have been going for Donnarumma in the summer when he was available for free. That's the reality of it. I think what is worth mentioning is that De Gea, while sweeping still remains a sort of weakness, he has made strides in that department, not to the level that we'd like to see, but he has this season swept to good effect in games. There was Wolves, there was Chelsea, there was Brighton, there was an instance against Southampton, there was the Atletico Madrid game just the other week where I think Varane ended up getting a foul given against him, but De Gea was never going to know that when he was out there. And one thing I have noticed was being in the crowd at the Brighton game and the Southampton game. The seats I had was sort of more aerial view, and as a goalkeeper myself, I always watch a goalkeeper's positioning. And one thing I noticed, and it's, I pointed out on Twitter and I had a few folk going, oh, well, that doesn't mean anything, but it doesn't. Oh, that's just, coincidence. It's not. But De Gea's positioning over his career, when we're on the attack and we're on the offensive, has always been his penalty spot. It's always been his penalty spot and inside his penalty area. His positioning when we're on the offensive now is the edge of his D. Now, that's 4 or 5 yards further forward, and that's not an accident. That is obviously something where he's trying. We saw him attempt to sweep at the weekend, didn't quite make a good job of it, but
was that the McTominay situation? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah. Even the best sweepers, you see instances where they come out,
of course,
they come out and just don't quite get there. So I think the fact he's obviously attempting to try and add it to his game, I think that's a positive in terms of taking it way back to the point about crosses. I feel like that's still his weakest, and again, that's something where it seems like ages ago, but under Moyes, with Chris Wood as his goalkeeper coach, he came for some crosses where he battled through folk and took it off strikers' heads. And I remember watching it at the time thinking, he's finally got it. He's finally got to grip for England. And now it feels like he's gone backwards. And again, I don't know whether that's because you can't blame it all on coaching. Of course you can, but 8 coaches, 8 or whatever, 7 or 8 goalkeeper coaches in 10 years isn't going to be good for any player's development, because at the end of the day, everybody's going to have their own set approach.
There is one question though, Alex. Then where is his fucking common sense?
Right, I've been quiet for too long.
Where is his common sense?
Right, I mean, all these coaches in 10 years, fine, right, whatever. Well, it worked for Chelsea and it's worked for other clubs. It's worked for Real Madrid.
I'm talking about goalkeeper coaches. I'm not
yeah. But the thing is, Stu's right. Where's his common sense? You're obviously a goalkeeper, Alex, so you're more aware of it of me. But there's some stats that have come out with De Gea. I watched them and I've just made a few notes of them down here. Among accurate passes forward, he's amongst the worst in the league. So he's no good at distributing the ball from the very back of the pitch because he can't do it. He's in the bottom 2% of crosses claimed in the entire of Europe. which is shocking. I think I actually read a stat that's worth 0.2 XG a game. So over 5 games, that's a goal. That's nearly 8 goals a season in the Premier League. Not good enough because some crosses can't be headed away. Some of them need to have commanding goalkeeper to take the ball away. He's no good at that. What else have I got here? His long pass completion amongst the worst who have attempted 15 or less. So that's the likes of Edouard Mendy at Chelsea, Dubravka, all these keepers. He's amongst the worst of them. He's not a sweeper keeper. His starting position between where he is and the back line, because under Rangnick, he wants to have Maguire and Lindelof over around whoever it is. They want them to start a bit further forward, which doesn't suit Maguire, by the way. It's no good for him. He can't turn on the ball. So it doesn't help him. So that in its turn is 2 weaknesses because your main centre-back and your goalkeeper can't deal with this new tactic. His XG saves is brilliant. I think it's something like 11 XG per game at the minute throughout the season, which is about 4 or 5 better than anyone else in Europe. The problem with that is it's unsustainable. And a lot of these saves that he's doing are coming from, like Ben said before, he's absolutely, and there's no other word to describe it other than it's piss poor distribution of the ball. Every time he clears it or tries to pass it to a defender or to midfield, it goes nowhere near them, or it's nowhere, or it puts Fred or McTominay in a really hard position. So then they have to do something with the ball, and then they're immediately put under pressure, just like Maguire when he passes it to them. It puts them under pressure, then they lose the ball, then everyone has a go at Fred and McTominay, says they're not good enough. When realistically, it came straight from DeGea, and it was DeGea's fault. DeGea needs to have this in his head. He needs to have a bit of common sense on him and go, that's not on. There needs to be somebody to come closer to me because they know my distribution isn't good. He's 30, nearly 31 now. This isn't going to be trained into him anymore. If United want to play this sweeper keeper role where you distribute the ball from the back and get it to your defenders and patiently build the ball forward from the back, De Gea isn't good enough for that. Maguire isn't either. Honestly, there is so... I remember doing a video in September. You were on it too, Ben. You did a very last minute, oh my God, how great is it that Ronaldo's come back? And our expectations were through the roof. We all went, oh my God, we might win the league. And now we're talking about bloody qualifying for the Europa Conference League. It's disgraceful. The entire club has got absolutely everything that could have gone wrong. And every decision that they could have got wrong, they got horribly wrong. De Gea, like Alex just said, Donnarumma should have been our goalkeeper this year. But the Glazers probably haven't even heard of him. They probably don't even know who he is. They spent 80 million quid on Maguire. All of a sudden we changed tactic, and now it absolutely doesn't work for him. He can't do it. He's not a player, and he's no captain. The idea that we've got De Gea, yeah, he's a great shot stopper. He's a frigging goalkeeper. That is literally his number one job. If he's crap at that, then why is he a goalkeeper?
I mean, he's not crap. I mean, he's probably the best in the world at that.
I said if he's crap at that, then why is he a goalkeeper? But he's not crap at that.
I think in terms of Maguire, you're spot on in terms of Maguire. At the end of the day, the reason Maguire looked... I've seen a lot of people sort of say, oh, but Maguire's just, he's just out of form. He looked really good in his first season. Part of the reason he looked really good in his first season with us was because we played in a fundamentally different way, where we were at that stage 100%. Under Ollie, in Ollie's development, where we were, more sitting back, hitting teams on the counter, fast attackers, and we were playing as a counter-attacking side. And when Maguire, and it's the reason he looks good for the reason he looks good for England in a 3, because he's got the cover. You only play a 3 if you don't necessarily trust the 2. Like, that's the reality of it. And he looked good for Leicester because he's at the edge of his box. Some defenders look good at the edge of the box. Some look better going forward. As soon as Maguire steps forward, he's a liability in behind him, because he turns like a he turns like a bloody lorry. If you were trying to get a lorry to do a 3-point turn on the motorway, that's how Maguire turns. And as soon as we changed our style, or not necessarily changed it, but developed our style and pushed more towards, because that's where Ollie was always going with it. I know Ollie's gone now, but this started under Ollie. His reality was we developed from the counter-attacking side, with our defenders sitting a bit deeper, just trying to take control of games, trying to control possession, trying to have a back line higher up the pitch. And that's where the question comes in. Who made the decision to do with Maguire in terms of signing him? Was it Ollie? Was it the club? Was it the fact that we'd probably made...
Alex, I think there's a bigger question to that. And I really don't know how we've just got onto Maguire, because this is what irks me with debates. It always comes back to Maguire for some reason. The biggest issue we've got here is we've got two managers this season who have got the squad they've got. Now, whether they wanted the players they've got is a completely different situation, but they've got the squad they've got. You've got to work with it.
Well, I think
work with that squad.
No, I totally agree. I think that's part of the issue. We're trying to...
What you've just said there on Maguire, I can't disagree with everything you've said in terms of tactically and how he plays the game, etc. But you've got the squad you got, so you either play the players or you don't play the players, or you suit or change your system to suit the players you've got. Because you're never gonna turn a Ford Fiesta into a Ferrari unless you're a fucking genius. And ultimately, we haven't had managers that are geniuses quite clearly. The only thing that I'll go back to with Maguire, and again, I don't want to go over Maguire as a singular player. I mean, I know we're talking about the hero of thingy because we'll be here all night talking about Maguire. The thing that I can't get in my head and the thing that I can't get clear with, especially given his current form, right? We had one of the best defensive records in Europe when him and Lindelof were on it, right? And they looked brilliant, and he looked brilliant at the back. Guardiola wanted him for a reason. Guardiola doesn't just want footballers for the sake of wanting a footballer. Maguire was his number one choice.
Can I just chip in there just 1 second? Henderson was between the sticks.
So what I'm going to say is, full circle.
Henderson gives his two centre backs so much more confidence than De Gea does.
Henderson's not good enough either. I don't think Dean Hen. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, the comment before about Sam Johnston replacing De Gea or whatever. We're talking about England's third, fourth choice goalkeepers. Is that where we're at now with Man United? We want England's third, fourth choice goalkeeper.
Stu is right. Henderson was in between the sticks.
And also all of it.
And when you
most of it,
De Gea getting number one on default this season. Henderson got number one on default because De Gea went off on paternity leave. But the reality is, I don't think, like I said, I don't.
You're looking at a defensive record with so much.
I don't think either of that. In the long run, I don't think either of them are good enough. And
there's only one way to find out
about them. We'd have gone in for Donnarumma, but we don't have anything about us because we're run by bankers. We're run by people who don't understand football, who don't plan ahead.
Yeah, there's a few comments coming here, by the way. Like Jamla says that was with De Gea. Henderson wasn't there. I can't remember how many games between them they played that season. But Navina also said here on that point, De Gea is Spain's third and fourth choice goalkeeper. I don't know if he is that, his second choice at the very least, but I see what you're saying. I just quickly on this, and I don't want to, because we've got two other topics to go to, and we're already at an hour. So sorry, lads. I don't know if you guys have to rush off anywhere. But just quickly, by having this conversation, I'm always skeptical about these conversations in terms of whether we're making a problem instead of having one, especially when we have conversations like this about De Gea, because it's potentially it's not the smaller things. The smaller things add up, don't they, Stu? We know that in football. Like, ultimately, his job is to keep the ball out of his net, but you can't make 7 mistakes and keep it out twice. Like, that doesn't equal. Always look at five-a-side for this, by the way. When I'm in goal, I can concede 5 because I'm shit in goal at 5-a-side, but that must mean that I have to score 5 because otherwise my team's in a deficit. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird comparison, but you sort of see what I mean.
I get it.
So I don't know, boys. Are we making a problem by having this conversation about De Gea, or is there actually a realistic problem there with De Gea where there needs to be a change?
I think there is a huge problem with De Gea.
I think it's a discussion that needs to be had. I don't think if it's one that needs to be had desperately at this stage. If we're thinking about in terms of if we're looking at this summer, we're not going to be signing 8, 9, 10 players, which in reality is probably what we need. We're going to be signing 2, 3 maximum, in which case we have to prioritize what is the biggest priority, in which case we can't go another summer without a midfielder, and we definitely can't go a summer without a striker, because both of our strikers, whose ages at the moment add up to about 75, both of them are going to be going. So in reality, those are the two main positions. And then beyond that, is goalkeeper third choice in that list? I don't think it is. We've already covered that. I think Henderson.
Alex,
I think the
I
Henderson.
get what you're saying. Alex, just quickly, sorry, let me just flip reverse. I get what you're saying. I completely agree with that point when it comes to transfers, by the way. So this isn't me butting in because I disagree with you. I completely agree when it comes to transfers, what you're saying. I suppose what I mean is in terms of where we're at in terms of relevance now. Like, is our goalkeeping situation an issue like right now where we should be looking at, well, Henderson needs to be given a shot in goal now because De Gea is an issue. Like, we've spoken about how great his saving statistics are and how, by the way, some fans are calling him player of the season so far because we've been that poor in terms of the rest of the team.
He should win player of the season because I don't think anybody else.
This is what I'm trying to say. Is De Gea a problem now? Like, we're having this conversation. Is he a problem now? Or is it more as the club moves forward?
He's been a problem all season.
Okay, so we are slightly split. Ahmed, you haven't said anything there. Let me just
bring you all season.
I mean, Stu, you know that I disagree with that, but
no.
Let me go to Ahmed.
I don't think we have a better season with Henderson. I don't think it's as simple as a goalkeeper making the difference. There's so many weaknesses in this team, and I think it's a case of we've got 99 problems, and De Gea is maybe like 75th on that list.
I'm sure that's what Jay-Z said as well. Ahmed, let me come over to you. Quickly, come on, Ahmed. Have the deciding say. We're having a split panel on this, but everyone's being really respectful. So come on, Ahmed.
I'm simply going to say it like this because I don't think I can add any more than what's already been said. There's more deeper lying problems in the team and in the club, which we'll cover later on, that I feel need to be subjected first. But if we're going to talk about the goalkeeping position, it's for me, it's very simple. If David De Gea's performances begin to tail off for any reason other than what he's expected to be doing game in, game out, then you replace him with Henderson immediately. Give the boy a chance. People will have their opinions on him and their criticisms about him. He won't do everything right. That's understandable. He may be England's third or fourth choice goalkeeper, but let's not forget here when he was returning to Old Trafford after his spell at Sheffield United, there was so much excitement over him, and there was rumours that growing that he could have replaced De Gea at the time. When I think in the 2019-20 season, De Gea wasn't exactly at his best. A lot more mistakes were creeping in, high-profile ones against Watford, Chelsea in the FA Cup, little things like that. That's not me hating on David because with respect to him, he's probably been our best goalkeeper for a very, very long time. But I can also understand the frustration of Henderson not getting chances, and he had those opportunities by default last season and performed when asked to. But every goalkeeper's going to concede a goal. Every goalkeeper's not going to be perfect. So, like I said earlier, if we are going to look at that position in the summer, it's hard to find names that are going to perform to that standard to the standard David has set. If they can exceed it, great. But in the short term, David has like general play outside of his shot stopping needs to improve. And if it doesn't improve, you just got to tell him straight. You're not doing what we need you to do. We're going to put the second keeper in and see how he fares. If it doesn't get any better, we're just screwed anyway. So
you can tell Ahmed works in the media. Those sprinters must be killing your ass, Ahmed, sitting on that fence, pal.
It's a little bit late. He's what, 30 this year, 31. It's a little bit late.
The only thing I would say about the two is that when De Gea lost his spot last season, whether he deserved to or not, whether coming back from paternity leave, there was not one story about him kicking up a fuss. There was not one story about him throwing his toys at the pram. And at the end of the season, at the end of the day, he did cut his holiday short, come back early for pre-season, get his head down and work. And whether he got the chance on a lucky break because Henderson got COVID or not, when he got that chance, he did take that chance. And
the thing is,
but he kept his head down and he worked. And part of my issue with Henderson is I don't like that there seems to be a media story around him every 5 minutes. And I feel like he would benefit more from keeping his head down and working, as opposed to constantly going, oh, but I'm the next, and constantly going off on one, which seems to be the case, because there's too many stories about Henderson in the media for there not to be something being pushed by his representatives or his agent. And I feel like would benefit more from getting his head down and working.
You could be right on that Henderson issue there in terms of representatives possibly posting stories. The thing is, I do wonder if Henderson wants to leave because he can see the issue in DeGea as well. And he's like, why the hell am I not playing? I genuinely believe Dean Henderson would still be our number one goalkeeper now if he didn't get injured and catch COVID. I really think he would be.
Can I add, Callum? Can I just add to that as well? In terms of, again, I'm also trying to sit on the fence a little bit here as the host, but everyone's making good, respectable points. By the way, this is why I freaking love this channel. Like, ultimately, egos at the door. We can have a nice debate like this, and we can all say our piece, and I love that. I just wanted to say one thing on this is that I don't like the stories that are coming out that potentially he's leaking stuff, right? But we have no proof of that, so we don't know whether that's true or not. I don't like those stories. But I also have nothing against a footballer who's not playing football, unhappy and wanting to leave. I have nothing against that. Because if you're a footballer and you want to leave because you're not playing football, I get that. And that's the hunger I want in a footballer. I want everyone going on the pitch and going, if I don't give my all today and I don't keep my space, give my all, I'm not going to keep my space in the side. I'm not going to play football. So I'm going to give it my all. So I don't mind that. But I'm with you, Alex, on the whole. Like, I've seen some of the stories about him being a leak and the mole and this and that and stuff. So I'm with you there. I've also got my own thingies around him, a bit like what you said as well, Alex. Some hits with Henderson as a goalkeeper. But do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put it to the Twitter polls, guys. Look, we've got like 135,000 followers. If we can't decide amongst us, then let's put it to those. Just put it to those guys, right?
By the way, I've seen it. I've voted on that poll, right? And I just got the results, and it's already wrong. So,
I mean, I think it's right, but that's football, isn't it? We've all got.
I think it's wrong as well. I think it's wrong as well.
Right, boys.
We got
an hour and 10 in. We've got to leave DeGea there. I'm sorry. I know wherever you go, you always take DeGea with you, but at this point, we're going to have to leave him where he is. Callum, you can go the same way you came. You know that, right?
Of all the people, sorry, Ben, of all the people to respond, England cricketer Sam Billings, seriously, he's been our best player this year because he hasn't got a back four helping him. Most saves made in the Prem. He is class.
He responded.
Not my words. And he also won Player of the Month last month. So not my words. This is the man who's a professional.
Can we just look? We like Sam Billings. Hi, Sam. Thanks for commenting and thanks for watching or on Twitter. But I would say, and I do genuinely mean this, it isn't just the goalkeeper, and you can't blame the back four because they come as a collective group. They come as a collective unit. When I was playing, I was constantly talking to my goalkeeper. Where do you want me? Do you want me 5 yards deeper or 5 yards up? He doesn't communicate enough. But Sam Billings. What a legend.
I agree.
Wow.
I do agree with Stu there. Like, Stu and I have had this discussion before. I've said before that one of the first things I've always said to my defense is, in terms of the first thing you do in a game as a centre back, is first thing I always want my centre back to do is make sure the first time the striker gets the ball, they get in on them quickly and basically go through them fairly, of course. I'm not advocating.
No, you're right. No, well, I go through them
because the way I've always seen it is, if a striker gets the ball and the first time he gets the ball in that game, he gets loads of time on it. Then every time he's going to get the ball, he's going to get loads of time on it. But if the first time he gets the ball, if he gets a defender right up him, right up his backside, in all honesty, then the next time he gets that ball, in the back of his head, he is thinking, where's the defender? Where's the defender? And immediately it's that little shadow of doubt. It's that little bit of doubt. And that's what we need.
Because we do need to move on, but can I just say there's an elephant in the room here? Sam Billings has just tweeted us and no one's responded to him saying, Sam, you need to come on AFU. So I'm just putting it out there. There's loads of you watching right now on Twitter. There's quite a few of you on Facebook. There's some of you on YouTube. If you're not on the YouTube channel, come over to YouTube, subscribe to All for United, get liking this video. And if you don't follow us on Twitter, at All for United, Sam Billings has just responded. We'd love to have Sam on. And Karthik would lose his mind if Sam Billings comes on and he's not around. So let's make it happen. Or I might even...
He's a busy man right now, though. I know that. For sure.
Oh, yeah, but he would have time whilst they're bowling or something just to jump on the camera like that. They stand around half the game, don't they? I hope Sam's watching right now.
Shouldn't he be playing cricket at the minute? Aren't we?
We had a notification come through. All for United live.
England's cricket tour, so he's a bit.
I was going to say we're playing somewhere, aren't we?
West Indies.
Get back to the day job.
Yeah. Sorry, I know nothing about cricket. Sorry, Sam, if you're watching, I know nothing.
Stu, stop it! You're ruining our chances. We
love cricket. Sorry, we love cricket.
We talk about cricket a lot of the time.
He's just switched off.
Oh, we've lost him.
Is the cricket with the one where you stand like that or like that?
Don't stop it.
Right.
Oh, Manny's replied to my tweet, and he's gone, "What? He's been the most informed player this season. WTF? Why is this even a question?" Manny, can I just say, some fan channels don't just make hysteria content. Some of us actually get passionate fans in a room or in a virtual room together, and we just talk shit and talk about stuff. And ultimately, when it comes to talking about Man United, everyone's got different opinions. That's what's happened tonight. But we're respectful about it. We're not going to punch each other in the face. We're going to walk away. Okay. I'm on my way to have a beer together. Right, Ahmed, let's come over to your topic. Go. Stop looking at Sam Billings' tweets.
Okay, can I ignore Sam tweeting us and let's get on with it? So my discussion topic is the disconnect between fans and the club. Since the invasion of Old Trafford in April last year, when the Super League was going on and all of that, all of that attention was suddenly drawn to Old Trafford because the fans ruined the game that could have happened on that Sunday. When actually it was a massive turning point in the way this club was being run and how it's been run since then. For me, it isn't enough, and the fans are starting to feel. I'm like you all. I am one of them. I feel like we're not exactly getting the rapid changes that we're looking for. I know stuff takes time. Not everything will happen. Rome wasn't tomorrow. Rome wasn't built in a day. So my hope would have been by now we had a better structure in place on a footballing front. We're starting to see that, but it's not like a wholesale change. The wholesale change I thought we'd see. Ed Woodward's gone, and okay, that's good. Richard Arnold's in there. I don't know what to expect from him, but I would also like him to start looking at the footballing side of the situation. Get the fans involved in a lot more decisions than just getting one fan on the fan group from fan group in. I want to see MUFC involved. I want to see like the TRA involved. I want to see all these fan groups involved in the running of the club. This share scheme that they've promised us isn't developing quickly enough. There can't be like difficulties in legal processes to get this over the line. It should be very simple. You offer fans shares. If they want to put money into it, they put money into it, and then give them spaces on the board. Let them have a voice. They're straining their lives, their hearts and souls out there week in, week out to get them to earn the wage they can to watch this team play, and they get to see turgid performances on the pitch. We then go out and blame the players when realistically it's a chain effect of different problems, from the players to the coach to the board up to the owners. It's a repetition that goes on and on and on and on. It doesn't stop every single game. So much change has been promised, but we've not seen it. And I feel right now, like on a personal level, I'm mentally checked out of this season following Sunday. If we're really going to be achieving anything remotely near the standards or the trophies of a Premier League or a Champions League, we should endeavour to enact change sooner rather than later, or risk falling further behind in the race to try and beat City, Liverpool in the league and the major giants in Europe. So I feel as fans, we're doing everything we can to push the team over the line, but not giving us what we feel is enough on the pitch. And seeing us being touted as players that give up, that surrender, that's not a Man United. That's not a Man United thing. I've never heard or seen such a thing, but it's happening in front of my eyes, and I get great shame from it. So I feel disconnected in that kind of way, and I feel some fans will also feel in that same kind of, let's say, emotional reaction to them right now.
I'll be
Do you know
brief on
what?
this.
Go on, still. I want you to jump in, but I do want to say one thing. I do have to admit that of recent weeks, especially, and I made this clear to you, Stu, and I said to you, didn't I? I didn't know if this had anything to do with the interim scenario that we're going through at the moment.
Yeah.
But the identity, I don't recognise this United side at times. I don't recognise Manchester United Football Club on that pitch at times. And especially then with some of the stuff that comes with it. I mean, maybe just the way Sir Alex Ferguson managed the club in the early social media days just made it easier to love the players and see these figures as indispensable icons that represented something that I was so passionate and in love with. Now, everything about them just winds me up.
Well, look, I agree 100% with Ahmed. I think Ahmed's right. I thought it was well articulated what he said. Richard Arnold's a marketeer. He's the one that started to really build the brand. He used to be the marketing director, and he's the main reason why United are where we are today in terms of marketing, in terms of sponsorships. He headed that up. Then he moved across to group manager director. Now, obviously, he's gone to CEO or whatever his title is going to be. If he's got anything about him, we'll have our new manager in place by the end of March, because that's when he needs to be in place, ready to go, because he's then got time to deal with Murto or whoever, Ranić or whoever, and talk about structure, talk about policy, talk about player acquisition, player departures, talk about player salaries. And he's got a long job. We cannot afford to wait until June or July the 1st when he becomes a free agent. We cannot afford to wait. Now, Callum said 7 weeks ago, before Ranić came in, there is a manager out there, go and buy his contract. And I agree. Whoever that may be, and we can speculate because we all want a different type of manager. I quite like Ten Hag. I know Benny's a big Poch fan. I know, Ahmed, you like Poch. I think you're on Ten Hag, aren't you, Alex?
Yeah, I'm definitely Ten Hag.
And Callum, I've never really
Ten Hag all day.
Yeah, Ten Hag. So if I was Richard Arnold, John Murto or whatever, that's exactly what I'd be doing. And I'd make sure this manager is in place. We've got a pre-contract ready for him to sign. We've done the deal with whoever it is. It doesn't matter who it is. We've done that deal and we're ready to go. And in that period, he is then feeding information about what he wants. He gets his backroom staff in place. So all this is done by the end of May. Everything's done by the end of May. Targets identified, salaries done, everything. Everything is done by the end of May so that we're ready to go in the summer. If we don't do that and we don't start acting like a club who wants to be a football club and not just a business, we're never going to succeed. So that's my view on it all.
My view is, Ahmed, you're right. There's a huge disconnect with the fans. I think that stems from the very top. I don't think this club will be anything but a business whilst the Glazers are in charge. I don't think we'll be a serious football club ever again whilst the Glazers are in charge. I think whilst the Glazers are in charge, you'll be lucky to hit 4th or 3rd again. We might finish 3rd, 2nd, I guess, but 10, 15 points behind 1st, like we have done in the past few years. There's a huge disconnect with the players and the fans because for some reason they all have social media teams, and whenever we play like that in the Manchester derby and we can't be asked running for the ball, or we can't be asked stringing 4 yards in a row together, or we can't be asked even trying to play football and we quit on the football pitch, and then all these players come out and go, sorry, but we'll go again next week, and then you find out that it's from their PR agency. There's a disconnect between the fans. There's an unfortunate thing with this club at the minute that it is quite literally rotten from the very top to the very bottom. Everyone from the top, everyone, as the players can see, they've been kept out of the loop with the new manager. They've been kept out of the loop with absolutely everything that goes on football-wise. And the problem is they see the lack of care that has been given to this club over the last 17 years by leeches of owners. They see the absolute lack of care and the lack of leadership from those, and they turn around and it leaks down to the bottom, and they go, well, why do we care? Why should we care? Because those at the top will forever make money from the club. And you mentioned I did like the way you described it, the invasion of Old Trafford. I would be in favour of doing that every single home game of every single competition if it means we can't fulfil our fixture list. Because if we can't fulfil our fixture list, then people at the top don't make money. If they don't make money, they will see the seriousness that the fans cannot be bothered with us anymore. They don't want us here. We know that, but that now they are hitting us where it hurts. If we don't make money, there is no point. If we can't fulfill fixtures, we get relegated. And if that means that they are leaving and that they don't leech any money out of this club, people turn around and say United have invested $1 billion and Glazers have made money available. They've not made their money available. They've made Manchester United's money available whilst they've done it by just going, just buy a load of players. Meanwhile, the academy's rotting. It's only recently that started picking up because of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I may add. That's only started picking up recently because of that. The ground is quite literally, I go past it every single day. It is rotting. And I mean, it's falling to bits. The stanchions are rusting. Just because the Glazers went, don't worry, don't go on our pitch again, we'll put a lick of paint on it, doesn't mean it's not rusting anymore. It's falling to bits. Carrington was last modernised the year before the Glazers took over, which was 2004. The training ground is rotting. The stadium is rotting. The club has barely any football structure. It's only recently, because of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, again, I may add, that football structure has started to be added. These people don't care, and they will allow a disconnect between the fans and the club because they know it doesn't really hit them where it hurts enough. And until that stops and until that happens, they will continue. The players will carry on using PR. They'll carry on not caring about the team. They'll carry on not caring about the club. They'll carry on not running. They'll carry on quitting because they know at the very top the club isn't looked after. So why should we look after the fans?
A little caveat. I think it will completely change once we know what Chelsea sells for. That will open everybody's eyes to the current state of the Premier League, what Chelsea sells for. If he manages to scrape $3 billion out of Chelsea, then we haven't got a hope of being sold.
Yeah, 100%. And I think
the problem with that, 5 billion at least.
It'll be 4 or 5 billion for Man United. It won't be 4 or 5 billion. It'll be taking over a club in debt. It'll be taking over a club that the stadium needs work on. It'll be taking over a club that'll be worth 4 or 5 billion, and then you'll probably have to spend another £1 billion outside the playing squad. And you'll probably have to spend another good few $100 million on the players for the manager that manager wants. You're then looking at other money for sponsorship deals, and that honestly, we probably need a good 8, 9, 10 billion quid for the Glazers to leave, and it's never happening.
Never gonna happen. Never gonna happen.
You know who we need to blame for allowing these people to own our football club? The man that's just left, Ed Woodward. He helped broker a deal so that they could make sure they could own the club, and then he sort of turns around and says utter garbage that we're the best club in the world. He ruined this club along with them people, the Glazers, and if it wasn't for do you know what? I'm never on board with people attacking houses. That was wrong. But he turns around and wonders why people did it. It's because of how angry he made the fan base. He made them so angry that people did that, which was wrong. I need to stress that. But it was wrong. But he made people that angry that people have felt the need to have to do that. And he turns around and goes, well, I did my best for the club. If that's your best, good Christ, I'd love to know what your worst was.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the thing is, I totally agree with basically all three of you. The reality is, and for me, it always comes back to one quote. And that's when Van Gaal was asked after he left us, what's the difference between managing Bayern Munich and managing Man United? What's the difference between the two clubs? Two great clubs in Europe, two historical clubs. What's the difference? Bayern Munich's a football club. Man United is a business, and we will always be a business. We will always be business first, whilst the Glazers remain in charge. The reality is, they are a cancer that has been eating away at our club since they took over. And, you know, it goes back to, I remember people saying, oh, who's giving Ronaldo the tour of the training ground when he re-signed in the summer? He didn't bloody need one. It still looks the exact same, you know, as Cal said, it still looks the exact same way as it did in 2009 when he left. You know, putting every decision that the Glazers make is based around saving face. You know, they make a bad decision and they go, oh, we'll give the fans a nice big signing and they'll all shut up. You know, they got a bit of a fright with the Super League. So what do? They go out and go, oh, we're gonna improve Old Trafford, a lick of paint and I think it was new what is it, floodlights. Great. Whoop-de-doo.
And a screen.
You know, I went 2019 before COVID, I ended up at I was at the American football at Spurs' new stadium.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. And while I don't think you necessarily need a brewery inside a football ground, standing there, I'm like, you know what? I hate Spurs. But wow, this is amazing. Like, this is everything. And I'm not saying knock down Old Trafford and go again, but so many things. There's been planning permission that has been in place for years to raise the capacity of Old Trafford by another like 12,000 by putting an extra tier on the Sir Bobby Charlton stand and bringing it to the same level as the rest of the stadium. Such a standing would make such a difference. But no, because there's too many. It's money. It's all, you know, the Glazers, everything they do is financially, like, people talk about the money they've put in America into Tampa Bay. The reality is, when they bought the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a lot of people forget they built a new stadium for the team. They didn't actually. They cheated the system. The Tampa Bay
money, didn't they?
The Tampa Bay locals, the taxpayers funded the stadium, and then at the end of it, the Glazers paid to put a pirate ship in the corner with a cannon that fires every time they score a touchdown. And they went, "Oh, look, we've invested in you. You've built a pirate ship. What are you, 5 years old?"
That does happen, Alex, in all states, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's all states. I know what you mean. I understand what you're getting at. Yeah,
but the reality is, the Glazers will continue to hold us back because they don't care. They don't care. They will invest this summer because we've missed out on Champions League football, not because we're not near City or we're not near Liverpool. They'll put some money in because we've not got top four and we've not got them their payday. That's all they care about. That's why, you know, I'm actually almost a wee bit surprised that we acted as quickly as we did in dropping the Aeroflot. I was half expecting them to go, we'll just renew the deal because who cares? It's money.
I was surprised. Yeah, I thought they would have just ignored that.
I wouldn't put it past them. They're so out of touch. And the reality is, and the Super League was the perfect example of that. They're so out of touch. They were one of the leading forces behind that because there's so much in their own head. And it'll be back. And this whole fan share scheme is nothing more than a smokescreen. The reason, as Ahmad said, why is it taking so long to put in place? Because they're bloody slowballing it. They're slowballing it in the hope that people just forget and they can just go back to the way it was before. That's all it is. They felt like they needed to put it in place because of the pressure after the Super League idea. And now they've sort of done the whole, oh, look, we're putting it in place kind of thing. And now they're moving it so slowly in the hope that folk just forget and they can just go back to ripping money out of the club. And the reality is, we aren't going to get, you know, Stu was right. We'll see how much Chelsea go for, and that will show us. But the reality is, it doesn't matter, actually. You know, we could all of us could win the lottery and end up with 10 billion in our back pockets, and we could go to the Glazers with a big suitcase and go, here's 10 billion. They still don't need to sell.
No, they don't.
They don't need to sell. There's buyout clause for football.
Can I just come in quickly? The fan share scheme, I'm not disagreeing with. I don't know enough information about that, but the one thing that I do want to hit on is the fans advisory board that they have put into place that's now having regular meetings with John Murtough and a few times that I can't remember which Glazer is, but has been on it to save face, I think, more than anything. Just a few people that I know from that who are on there that I've spoken to, they have said that since the Super League and since that's been put together, at least there's been communication that wasn't there before. So that's a bit more positive.
Okay.
There's no denying that communication should have been there in the first place. And this isn't me defending them, but what I'm trying to say is that those fans that are on that fan advisory board, they do have grasp of what's best for Manchester United Football Club as well, especially some of those that I know. And they're highly involved when it comes to some of the supporters' trusts and some of the supporters' groups and what they do when it comes to Manchester United. So especially people like Deborah Henry. She's phenomenal. Yeah. And look, I personally think with the fan share scheme, there's only going to be one. Actually, do you know what? If I actually say what I want to say about that, I'll probably get sued. But there's only one winner as part of the fan share scheme, and it's not fans. I think it's more a business.
I think the other thing that we've seen at the moment as well is that history has shown that in 2010, feels like a long time ago, in 2010, Wayne Rooney was right. Like I don't think he went about it the right way, in terms of flirting with City, whatnot. That was probably his agents trying to sort of put him on the market.
He saw exactly. I agree with you. You're right, Alex.
I don't think he went about it the right way, but the reality is he said then.
He did 2010, 2010.
Yeah, he said 2010, where are we going? And they went, well, and he went, yeah, but where are we going? Because what he said was he basically went, the reality is Sir Alex Ferguson isn't getting any younger. He's not going to be here forever. I'm not going to be here forever. Vidic, Ferdinand, Carrick, Scholes, they're not going to be here forever. And what's next? What happens when we're all gone? What's next? And the reality is, that was October 2010?
Yeah,
so we're 11 and a half years later. We're almost 12 years later. And we're still sitting here asking the exact same questions, which is, what's next? Where do we go now?
Worst thing is, for me, is we're, like you say, Alex, we're asking ourselves exactly the same questions. We have almost got players who are asking probably the management of the club the exact same questions. Where are Manchester United going to go? Is there a reason that give me a reason to stay here after the season's over? Because other than those who we know are going to leave, but I'm just, like Pogba, Lingard, and Cavani and stuff, there are those who are, uncertain. The stories about Rashford coming out on Sunday, like he's not happy about his game time. Like, I don't want to be here. Those sorts of things, they lead back to what Alex says about Rooney's uncertainty 11 and a half years ago. That's a long time. They're still asking that question now. We keep saying every summer's a big summer for Man United. We expect great change and everything. They try and hype it up, but I don't think, and again, Ben, I'm not discrediting anything you're saying. I believe that communication is key, but that's just the bare minimum. I'm afraid that's just the bare minimum. There needs to be more than that from people who say they promise change at this club. And if it's going to happen, they're going to have to act like they care. It's annoying.
Actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. I completely agree.
I do.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Yeah. In 2022, it has to be better. And look, I know we've got to finish. I'm going to leave it at this.
All right, because I'll be on the sofa.
Manchester United are... we are rotten right now. There has to be change. It will change, and I know it will, but this needs to happen not 5 years from now, not 10 more years from now. The sooner you act on this, the sooner you listen to people who actually have the best interest of the club at heart, the more likely we're going to develop as a club, the more likely we're going to be able to compete for more than just the fourth spot in the league every single season, scraping Champions League football. The more likely we will be able to look forward to watching the team play, who actually give a crap rather than quit 25 minutes towards the end of a Manchester derby. We want those changes. as I said earlier, Rome wasn't built in a day, but there has to be clear and coherent signs that the club is changing for the better sooner rather than later. And I hope that we get to see that. But communication is good, but actions speak louder than words.
You're right. Roma wasn't built in a day, but Jose Mourinho could definitely try and destroy it in that. Just give him a little bit more time.
He's going to go.
I love Mourinho. Do you know what? I used to love Mourinho as well. The one I just want to say one thing. I actually resonate with everything you're saying, and I remember my granddad, my late great granddad, who literally he must have been about 83 or 4. He said this to me about 7-8 years ago, where he said, I can't watch football anymore because it's all about money. And then of course there was me, the football mad kid that just loved the game, loved Manchester United, although we were spending at the time as much as everyone else, going, no, it's not about money, it's great, I love football, blah blah blah, it's not about business, blah blah blah. Since getting into business and since watching and getting wiser and older, it's a business. It's not Manchester United Football Club, it's a business. And that's what's truly sad about the realization of that, because until that gets realized by a lot of fans, it paints a picture for where actually the issues are. But then also what I'd say is a lot of things like you mentioned Ed Woodward, Callum, in a lot of businesses, when you perform like that as a chief executive officer, you don't get away with it for that freaking long as well. So there's so many issues.
The best way to describe that, I've said it before as well. The best way to describe that is obviously Solskjaer was originally hired on an interim basis. Mm-hmm. We've now got Rangnick on an interim basis. Mm-hmm. Would the Glazers have ever hired an interim CEO?
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't.
Exactly. Like you're spot on. Anyway, quickly, Alex, before we dart off, because I don't want to be responsible for a divorce with Stu, and I definitely don't want to be responsible for Callum getting kicked out of his house, because he's got nowhere to go, Callum. And look at his face; he won't last a minute on the streets. So, Alex, just quickly in like a couple of minutes, tell us just a bit more about your topic, and if you're up for it. If you can be around, Jonathan's better at keeping the show way more condensed than I do. I just talk for ages. Maybe you can come back on next week and discuss that point, because you had a really good point lined up, which we're not going to get a chance to jump into. But give us a quick overview of what that was.
Yeah, no, the point was basically just looking at, I think a lot of the issue this season is that we've seen what seems like a quite obvious divide within the playing squad. And we're looking at a situation where, and it sounds like the old cliche of there's no I in team, but the reality is there's not. And as Manchester United, you have to be united in more ways than one. And at the moment, every single week, we are seeing a group of players that look like they've just been hand selected out of the local park, put together, and they've never played together before. The idea that these players play together every single day in training is almost it's laughable. If I'm being honest, I think, and there's been a lot of talk about the impact in terms of Ronaldo, and I think Ronaldo has had a part to play in it, and I don't necessarily think it's all been a bad thing, but I feel like there's been a situation where, and we've spoken before about, Ronaldo wants to win. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. He wants to win. That's who he is. And there's players in that squad who I don't think have the same desire to win as he does. And I think there's ended up being a situation where he's come in this season and he's gone, right, guys, follow me. I know how to do this. This is how you win. This is how you become successful. And I think he's taken the lead. And then I think some players have sort of gone, hold on, mate. And I don't want to blame it on Maguire or whatever, but is there or whether there's a possibility that Maguire's felt his sort of leadership and his captaincy threatened by Ronaldo. But I think there's then been a situation where there's been a group who will have followed Ronaldo and gone, yeah, this guy knows how to win. This is the way we need to go. And then there's been another group that have gone the other way and went, I'm not sure, and then there's that divide. And then you end up in a situation where you've got, Ronaldo not connecting with other players, and then he gets frustrated, and then you end up in a situation which we've seen most of the season, which is he just throws his arms up in the air and looks like a petulant child most of the time, if I'm being honest. And Bruno is also guilty of that a lot. But yeah, I can't, and we mentioned before about the social media and the fact that the players just it seems to be a constant. It's either no use Twitter apology, which is it's never going to happen again. We all know it will. It's going to happen again in a few weeks when we play Liverpool. Let's be honest. So the Twitter apologies are no use, or it's the constant leaks, which is such and such isn't happy, such and such isn't. Oh, there's been an argument between the players. Oh, maybe Ronaldo jetted off to Portugal without asking the manager, whether he was injured or not. If he did that, that's a pro show. And that is that categorically shows the state we're in at the moment. And that's a lack of respect on Ronaldo's part if he has done that. Or you've got Cavani's constant, well, I've trained all week, but I don't feel fit. And it's like, well, what do you need? What do you need, mate? Do you need 3 months training before you can get one game out of you? Like, is that the way this works? And I think one thing, and it's deteriorated so quickly, but one thing that we had that Ollie seemed to be able to get when Ollie was getting, I think he ended up getting a good amount out of this team. Looking back, it probably looks like he maybe overachieved in a way. But under Ollie, well, not this season, but before under Ollie in previous seasons, there was a clear unity in the group where they were united in one cause, in one goal. This season, it's not. It's a group of individuals again that, like I said, look like they've been randomly hand selected every game and never played together before, and that needs to change. Like, that is the biggest thing that needs to change. It's not the biggest thing, but the new manager who comes in, I really think, if I'm honest, if I was the new manager coming in, first thing I'd be doing is going out for dinner with Rangnick and going, right, what's the crack? Who's
don't give everything away. I want to get you back on to debate this properly. Don't give out all of your hot tips and tricks away. Otherwise we're going to miss out on it all.
Yeah. And I will be divorced.
Yeah, exactly that. No, and do you know what? One thing I want to quickly say on that is I agree. It's like watching strangers in the park at times with United, and it's mad. It's mad. And Stu and Callum have both said at times as well how, sometimes these players have to take responsibility. The disconnect.
I said that before, Cal.
Yeah, Stu said that before, Cal. Do you know what? We've achieved so much on this show. We've realised that Stu and Callum just want bragging rights on All for United. That's all they want. They just want to say stuff before each other. It might be the reason why Callum talks so much shit.
Not even that. It's because me and Stu are the ones that are right most of the time.
Oh, here we go. Well, can I just say that what Alex said today about DeGea, Twitter are agreeing with him, and so Sam Billings. So maybe you're not right all the time. Just saying that. Just putting that out there. I think Alex has won the battle tonight, to be fair. And Ahmed's just been Ahmed. Like, he's just brought light and fun and smiles to the show.
He does.
Look at that. And he's grown a moustache as well.
Well, he's trying.
Being a commentator, I get older, so nothing comes.
Is it just easier to put the microphone with that thing bit there with a little bit of hair there? Is that what
it
is?
is?
Like
it covers everything, usually.
Yeah, is that what it is? Look, if you want some more madness from me, we're going to be back with a new Sunday night show, 10 o'clock. Again, we're doing it in the late hours. And the reason why we do that is we're going to have a little bit of fun with it. It's going to be called AFU's Last Word. So you can catch that Sunday at 10. I've got a wicked panel lined up, so do not miss out on that. Plus, we also have your goodness after the Spurs game on Saturday. Tomorrow, your tactical preview. Still you on that? You and Abdel?
Yeah, well, yes, it's me and Al. Are you on it tomorrow, Cal, or not?
James will probably send me the link. I might come on, yeah.
Oh, no, you're talking tactics. You're talking tactics with Callum.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I've been on it the past couple of weeks and done really well, so you can go.
Oh, it's the only two shows I haven't watched.
Yeah, tactical preview. Yeah, back tomorrow. Yeah.
Alex, superb. Thank you, mate. Ahmed, superb. Stu, Callum, thank you for bearing with me tonight. I wasn't expecting the show to go on as long as it did, but that's what happens when you get fans in a virtual room together with an open forum to discuss anything they bloody like, and it's been brilliant. That's what we're all about here at All for United. Hit like on the video, hit subscribe for more shenanigans like this, and we will speak to you guys soon. Bye for now.